I'm Becky Gray, and I'm one of the board members. You've already met Jim Glenn. His wife Sue is back there with food, and our president, Linda Watson, is back there. And Pat Morrow already spoke to you about how we really do need some volunteers. And we have a guest speaker tonight that we are so honored to have. For all you Park County history lovers, this is really an amazing opportunity. Tonight's speaker is a widely published naturalist and historian, a Dakota cattle rancher, a New York Assemblyman, U.S. Civil Service Commissioner, New York City Police Commissioner, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Commander of the Rough Rider Regiment in the Spanish-American War, Governor of the State of New York, Vice President and President of the United States, all by the age of 42.
Wow. It was a hot start.
It may have been, yes. As president, he placed over 230 million acres under federal management and protection as national parks. You can thank this gentleman for the national parks that we all enjoy. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for negotiating the end to the Russo-Japanese War and was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for his military exploits in Cuba. Ladies and gentlemen, President Theodore Roosevelt.
Very kind reception. Delighted to be here with you good citizens of Park County. Bully, I've had a wonderful time this week back in the Centennial State. I tell you, I feel, in this fresh mountain air, I feel healthy and fit as a bull moose, and toughened as a hickory nut. I'm delighted to be back in the Centennial State, a state that I feel like I know very well. I have returned here as often as my schedule has permitted me. I first came into your state in the national election of 1900. I was Mr. McKinley's running mate, you see. Mr. McKinley, already President of the United States, he had asked me to be his running mate that year of 1900, and while he conducted the campaign from his front porch in Ohio, asked me to hop on a train all throughout the western United States and campaign through all the western states, sometimes speaking a dozen times a day, perhaps. In the back of the train cars or in auditoriums, group gatherings such as this, perhaps. I'm happy to say that I got a better reception from you here today than my first visit to Colorado in Victor, Colorado. Maybe you know something of this story, but so my first impression of your state was a little lawlessness, perhaps, that had touched the state. You see, one of the election campaign ideas that year was that the Republicans stood for a gold standard, believed that American prosperity would happen with the gold standard, continuation of that standard, whereas the Democrats, who were led by that Nebraska populist, William Jennings Bryan, stirring up some of the working classes with the idea that their fortunes would be better served by the 16-to-1 silver to gold ratio to back the U.S. currency. Nonsense, as it turns out, but anyway, you can imagine in the western states, in the mining states such as Colorado, they would be behind such an idea, which would increase the amount of mineral extraction in the state. So I already knew that I faced an uphill battle when I was coming to Colorado as the Republican nominee for the vice presidency. So when we entered the town of Victor, I got off the train and I felt a chill in the air. And it wasn't autumn. It was the crowd. It seemed a bit testy and on edge and combative. And I knew as I made my way to the auditorium there in Victor that something was amiss. You see, the Democratic Party in the state of Colorado, probably paid by Mr. William Jennings Bryan, I wouldn't doubt it, had filled the auditorium with a group of ruffians, ne'er-do-wells, who saw it as their mission to interrupt every word that I said, and wouldn't allow me to finish embarrassing to me, wouldn't give me the courtesy of speaking before the crowd. We escaped there with our lives, it felt, and we left the auditorium back to the train and was rained down upon by brickbats and stones, and I even had a flagstaff broken over my shoulder. Can you imagine using the American flag as a weapon in an anarchy riot?
January 6th.
Can you imagine? Escaped that town with my life. I did have some of the Rough Riders with me, thankfully, and they took great delight in busting some of the teeth of those ne'er-do-wells because they saw their commander assaulted by this group. We left Victor and hopped back onto the train, and just a few miles further down the road was a stop at Cripple Creek that evening. And I got a very different reception there, as it turns out. Quite unexpectedly, we were still in the Gold Camp region, so I